bought one of the cheapest guitars that you can buy on Amazon, spending $140 on a fake Fender Stratocaster and a bunch of accessories, including an amp. Now this looks like great value, but does it sound and play good? Or is it a complete waste of money, and should beginner guitarists avoid it? So, this is the guitar that I purchased off of Amazon, and it was around $140. And it's more than just a guitar, I think it's a complete bundle. It's got like an amplifier, a strap, all sorts. So let's try and get this bad boy open. It's quite big, the box. And the funny thing is, it actually came in another box. It was like a box in a box, and the box that it came in was like about 10 times the size of this one. It was ridiculous. Are you kidding me? It looks like there's another box. Oh, gosh. Ah, here we go. Right, we're in. Oh, it's got a carry case and everything. Oh, the friction's strong with this one. There's our guitar amplifier as well. See it right there. Let's see what we're working with. So we got our guitar amplifier here. It's about 3 times smaller than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be like one of those like kid guitar amplifiers, but this is truly a mini guitar amplifier. It's absolutely micro, more like. Let's have a look. Looks like it's charged with an internal battery. I think maybe charged with that there. Gets even smaller once you unbox it as well. So what we got master volume. So it looks like it's got sort of like a clean volume and a distorted volume as well. And then we've got basically just a tone and a distortion gain. Okay. Inputs at the back, pretty simple. Clean or distorted switch. Aux in, headphone out, not bad. Yeah, and charge, yeah, it is battery operated. A little bit like those Black Star mini amplifiers you can buy. Those are actually quite good. When I was at university studying music and things, I use that thing all the time. And I've got the best tone ever out of it because I use it so much. I've learned all the tricks. What's in here? It looks like a sustain pedal. I thought we bought a guitar, not a piano. Cool. Oh, a cable and everything. Wow, this has all the works. And a tuner. It just keeps getting, this is like a true bag of goodies. It just keeps getting better. Oh, and spare strings. Oh, wow. This is blowing my mind. So we got cable, tuner, spare strings, picks. Oh, we've got picks and everything. And a capo. What the hell? And a whammy bar thing for the guitar. That's insane. I didn't know it had all that. I just knew it had an amp and a guitar. That's quite good, actually. For a beginner, that's pretty epic. But now, obviously, it's time for the grand unveiling, which is the main event, the guitar. It's got a nice, cheap carry case. Perfect for taking into school or, you know, wherever you need to take this thing for some guitar lessons. Right, there we go. Oh, it's covered in like cardboard. Look at that, it's so dusty. I hate it when that happens. Right, let's unveil the strings. What is this wrapping? I've never seen packaging like this before. Why are the strings wrapped up like this? It seems so unnecessary. Right, there we go. That's our guitar. Pretty much like a standard Stratocaster, isn't it? Sort of vibe. You know, you got your 2 tones here, then you got your volume. Sort of like a 5-way switch, is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we got a 5-way switch. Not being scammed. Wow, it's really heavy. That's like way heavier than I thought. I thought it was gonna be dead cheap and light. It's gonna have some insane sustain, maybe. Let's have a listen. Yeah, that needs some tuning. So, action-wise, feels quite loose, if that makes sense, like a little bit bouncy. We'll try it out when it's in tune, but let's inspect the frets. See if there's any sharp edges. It's okay. You can feel the frets when you run along the neck. You can feel it, but it's not like, oh, I've just cut my hand on a fret, you know. But you can feel the edges slightly, so you could maybe get a file and improve those a tad. Looking at the neck, this is a pretty cheap neck. I'm not gonna lie, it doesn't even have a little stripe down the back of it for some style. It is a cheap neck, but let's sort of see how it sounds when we tune it up. Luckily, we've got a tuner to do that with. Hope it has a battery. Ah, it doesn't have a battery. You're kidding me. Batteries sold separate. I'll just use mine. It's like so out of tune. When I'm tuning it up, it feels like the correct tuning's so far away, like the strings are gonna just blow up in my face because we're going from so loose to like tight on the actual string tension. It just feels horrible. The tuning pegs just feel like they turn forever. Look how much I'm having to turn it. I've done like a full turn and we're not even in tune yet. Let's see how it sounds. It might play better. So let's take a listen at the included amplifier. Now, First impressions aren't the best. When you actually plug the cable in, it like gets stuck and you have to be like, forcing it in. So something's not quite right with that input jack. That takes a brute force to get plugged in. Now this thing's got a master channel and a distortion channel. Pretty simple stuff. And you can switch channels at the back, I believe. Can't read that text. Okay, let's find out. Right, we'll crank it up to full. I think it's a 5-watt speaker. It's not the loudest. You know what? That's not awful. Oh, we can increase the gain. That is actually not bad. For a practice amplifier, I think that's pretty good. Now, the thing you need to be careful with some of these small amplifiers is they do hide a lot of almost your nuance of playing. So when you are learning to play the guitar, you might think you're like, the picking or your picking patterns are much cleaner than they are, because they do disguise a lot of problems with both sort of the tonality of your instrument and also your technique. So we can obviously adjust the tone. I want to see if we can get a bit more bottom end out of it. It doesn't really make much difference, that tone. This is it on... Oh, maybe it does, it does. Oh, that's that strat tone. That's not bad for practicing. If you're a beginner, included amplifier, I like it. I'm a fan. Now let's take a look at how this guitar actually sounds through a half-decent amplifier. Behind me here, we've got it running through that Marshall stack. Pretty expensive amp setup, almost $2,000 when you add everything up that we've got there. And we've got it running through an awesome microphone made by Blue Sonar. It sounds insane. So that's capturing the cab, a dynamic microphone. And it sounds really good. So through the actual Marshall amplifier, you can actually hear the definition of the pickups. So right now we're sort of on this sort of higher end of the pickups. It's giving you that more body sound rather than the treble. That's if you were to go a little bit more classic rock. Now, in terms of actually playing this guitar, isn't great. Well, if you're a beginner, it's superb. Seriously, if this a beginner guitar, really good. But for me personally, the strings are a little bit too light. So the gauge on these, easily like 8s or 9s, I'd say, the gauge of the strings. They're incredibly thin. Just fretting the notes doesn't feel as natural as I usually roll with. I use 10s, but I have used 9s in the past on my Gibson SG, so it's not a huge thing, which is why I sort of feel like these are 8s. They feel really thin, which means the strings feel really far away from each other if you're not sort of used to that gauge, which is why I didn't quite fret that quite right. It just feels like the space in between the strings is huge. Maybe a thicker gauge might improve that, or maybe it's just how the guitar's set up. What I've noticed running it through the bigger amplifier is you do get much more dynamics out of the pickup. So obviously this is a 5-way switch. This is it on the sort of top. Then we can drop it down. You can hear a huge shift between position 1 and position 2 there. And then dropping it down to sort of like that middle 3-4 position. You are hearing that sort of out of phasiness that you would on a more expensive Strat. They do respond quite well to turning down the tone, so we are on overdrive right now on this Marshall channel, but it's more crunch more than anything. It's just a bit of hair on there. You know, a bit of hair, but we can turn it back and get a much nicer tone. Go a little bit further and sort of clean up them pickups. So considering these are some pretty cheap pickups, they do actually respond quite well to you rolling back on that volume, give you a little bit more versatility when you're soloing. Now, one thing I must comment on are the tone knobs. I can't really hear them doing anything other than the second tone knob. Like, that does nothing. See that second tone knob? It's just nothing's going on no matter what position we're in. Like, it's changes 0 on the guitar. A little bit there, but it's not too noticeable. Second tone knob does do some stuff. You can sort of use that one, so I don't mind that one, but one of them's kind of useless. It doesn't really activate. Another note while actually playing this guitar, so let's go for sort of like a rocky tone. Well, one thing I struggle with on the guitar is firstly the tuning, because I tune so fast, especially this sort of like G string. That's a typical one on the guitar to go out, but sort of. And the other problem is I don't know whether this is the string gauge or just the guitar in general. But when I'm trying to do more heavy rock, more metal-y type stuff, you're like. Obviously, single coils aren't designed for that. You want more of that humbucker for a bit more body. Sounds okay, but my problem is when I'm trying to do sort of that sort of alternate picking type stuff, because the strings, it might be the gauge or whatever, just how it's set up, it's really hard to sort of get that like, a really accurate. I always feel like I need a much heavier plectrum, which I never usually need. This is my favorite plectrum on any guitar I use. Almost feels like I need a thicker plectrum to sort of make up for the lack of beef. You see there, like it just, the thin strings just like popped out my hand, and the really high action at that lower end. It makes you feel like I'm a beginner and I've been playing guitar for ages. Now, on the topic of this lower end, the intonation isn't, it's awful. So you sort of, if we put the tuner on, for example, and I throw the tuner on for just a bit of reference point, if we like fret like E, we've got E, E's in tune, and then we fret like G, a little bit sharp already, that G's sharp, just a tad sharp. Then if we go down here and the intonation down here and assess what the E sounds like lower down, we got E, bang on, E, really sharp, like really in the sharp edge of where the tuner is, and then obviously G is going to be even worse. It's almost, yeah, it's hideous. So you've got really poor intonation. For a beginner, they're not really going to notice that because they're not as fine-tuned into the accuracy of notes yet. They're just more learning how to fret, bend. Because of the light string gauge, it does make it really easy to do bends on because the strings are really light with no resistance because they're definitely 8s. So you can do bends really easily, which is perfect for a beginner. So if you're learning guitar solos, you can learn that no problem, a bit of bending. No problem at all there. But the downside is if a guitar isn't set up absolutely perfectly with really light string gauges on, it's super noticeable poor intonation. So all that is really sharp. It's killing my musician ear. I'm like, I'm cringing. I keep going to tune the guitar and it says it's in tune, but obviously it's not. If we now switch channel on the amplifier to something a little bit higher gain, this is where my personal opinion, I think cheap pickups really show how cheap they are. You would argue all cleans, that's the best way to test pickups. But often with cheap pickups, when you start cranking up that gain on the amplifier, the pickups just sound like they're peaking. They're like running through a preamp and just peaking, like clipping on the red of the meter, and they just have no definition to them. So we're now on sort of like the mid to high gain on this amplifier. It can go even crazier. The gain's not high. You can hear that intonation, you can hear the tuning. It works okay. For high gain, it's not terrible, but I feel like the pickups just sound, and this could be because they're single coil, but they just sound like they've got no body to them. I've tried in sort of increasing the presence a little bit because as well, I found these pickups to be just really muddy sounding. Like the mid end of the pickups was just drowning out all the detail that the guitar actually had. So cranking up a bit of that presence and getting a little bit more high end, I found sort of just gave the overall pickups just a little bit of life, especially on the more high gainy stuff. So it sort of cuts through and it doesn't just get drowned out. But you can play it quick. It's definitely playable. If you're a beginner, I feel like this is a decent guitar to learn on. Action's not bad. Strings are nice and light for learning how to bend. Pickups are like average. If you learn how to do guitar tones correctly, you'll be able to get something out of them. But if you're going to use it like a band and stuff like that, it's sort of, you probably want to upgrade at that stage. But first guitar, not bad. Oh, the caps came off. It's broke. That wasn't good. I've never had that happen ever on a Strat. The cap came off. And fixed it. Overall, this guitar isn't too bad. It's definitely perfect if you are a beginner looking for something pretty cheap and a bundle that can provide you with everything that you need. Something pretty funny, though, is the fact that they say this guitar is crafted in China rather than made in China. It's a fun little play on words there to make it sound a little bit more premium. Credit to them. The included amplifier for most pro players obviously sounds awful, but for a complete novice, it does do the job and provides the tones you would require, a clean tone and an overdrive. Plus, all of the additional accessories such as the capo, the additional strings, and also the guitar picks and tuner are very useful and a nice touch to this overall starter pack. If you do wish to upgrade the amplifier, you should definitely check out this video next, where I review one of the best budget tube guitar amps that you can use at home.